everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about a telephone interview. Nowadays, it is just so common for companies and employers to want the recruitment team to call and have a telephone interview with you before you're even scheduled for an in-person interview with them. So today I'm going to talk about how to prepare for a telephone interview, the process of a telephone interview, and all the way at the end, just a few tips that you might find useful. If you are interested in these types of videos and want to see more videos like this, hit like and subscribe down below so that I could know to make more content like this for you. So let's get started. So now we're going to talk about some steps that you should take to help prepare for your telephone interview. The very first step is to do some research and preparation of the job. What I mean by that is the very first call that you would get from the recruitment team is that they're going to tell you they want to schedule a telephone interview with you. So you and the recruiter will decide on a day and a time, and usually it's about a day or two after that initial phone call they give to you. So you have a day or two to prepare and do some research on the job. What I mean by that is pull up the job description again, reread it, and get yourself familiar with it. You've probably applied to so many other jobs during that process that you don't want to mix up the job descriptions. So you want to go ahead, reread the job description, see what they're looking for and points they're making and what they're actually looking for in their candidates. And the thing you want to do some research on is some usual questions they will ask during interviews. I will provide some examples on the questions they typically ask a little bit later on in this video, but you want to do some research and kind of have like answers in the back of your head ready, just so when they ask it, you're not taking too long or to answer the question, you're not stumbling to answer the question. Rereading the job description, it doesn't only help you refamiliarize yourself with what they're looking for and the points they've made, but also when it's appropriate during the conversation and you're talking about your experience, you can tie in, because you've read the job description, you could tie in your experience with a point or something they're looking for in their candidates during that conversation when it's appropriate. Don't just try to talk about the job description when it doesn't make sense. So the next step you should take to prepare for your telephone interview is to make sure you have a quiet place. You will have zero interruptions. If during the interview the recruiter is talking to you and they could hear like the TV playing in the background, there's music playing, there's people talking in the background, or someone actually comes and interrupts you during your telephone interview, it's only going to have a negative effect against you. The recruiter is going to see that you are not really that serious about this position, because if you were, and then you would have taken those extra steps that I feel like people just don't even talk about nowadays to be more ready, to show that you are ready, to show that you want this job because you took those extra steps. So my third tip for you on how to prepare for a telephone interview is wear a suit. Yes, you heard me correctly. Wear a suit. Wearing a suit is going to help you get in that mode of getting ready for an interview. You might be confused right now and say, but it's a telephone interview. Why do I need to put on a suit? No one's going to see me. We're talking on the phone. Yes, I hear what you're saying and I get it, but when you put on a suit, it helps prepare you and get in the mode, and helps you get in the mode of getting ready for a telephone interview. It's going to help boost up your confidence, and it's just going to make you feel more prepared. Because if you just are in your pajamas and you're laying down on the couch and talking to someone on the phone, you're going to sound lazy. You're not going to sound serious. You're not going to feel like you're actually even having a telephone interview. I know for my last telephone interview, which got me the job that I am currently in right now, I wore a suit and it totally made me feel like I'm getting ready for an interview. It helped boost my confidence, and I was just a lot more focused during the conversation and was able to answer the questions that she was asking me. So yes, the third tip is to put on the suit. So my fourth and final tip for you on how to prepare for a telephone interview is to have a notebook and a pen right next to you when you're going to have your telephone interview. This is just It's nice to have because, you know, if you're having a conversation, they might say something that you want to jot down. Talking to the recruiter, they might tell you something about the job or something about benefits or just something else related to the job that you might be curious about. You would just want to write it down. And let's say when you go into your in-person interview, you could reference back to it and say, you know, during the telephone interview, the recruiter told me this. Is this what you're still looking for, or is this true? So it's just kind of like nice to have a notebook and a pen in hand in case you might want to jot down something. I'm going to talk about the process of a telephone interview. So now you are ready for your telephone interview. You are sitting at your quiet place. You have your suit on. You've got your notebook and your pen with you, and you're waiting for them to call you. So let's say your telephone interview is at 10 a.m. I would be prepared with my suit, notebook, everything at 9:50. And sometimes they don't even call you at 10 a.m. sharp. Let's say if that's the time. They'll call you a few minutes after. The latest I've waited is 10 minutes past the time we had agreed upon. So you get that phone call, and after that initial hello, the recruiter will confirm, you know, to make sure that you guys are going to be talking about the correct job, that you're not talking about a different job from what you've applied for. And after they confirm that, the recruiter will kind of start to talk about the schedule of the job. So they'll say, this is a Monday through Friday job. It's a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. position. It's located at this address. And then they'll ask you, does this work for you? Like, will you be able to come to this location every day for work? And usually, you know, you already know the time and the date because it's on the job posting. Next, the recruiter will briefly talk about the pay and the salary of the job. They won't give you a hard, written in stone answer on like, this is what your hourly is going to be, or this is what your annual rate will be. They'll kind of give you a brief estimate. And what I've learned from doing a lot of telephone interviews is they usually will give you a higher rate than what the HR will come back at the end and offer you. So let's say you're talking to a recruiter right now during your telephone interview, and they say, okay, so this job is going to be around $30 an hour. And then you go to your in-person interview, and HR finally calls you, and they say that, okay, so we want to offer you this position, and we're offering it to you at $27 an hour. So just keep that in mind when you're having these telephone interviews. Usually the estimate they give you about the rate of what the pay is going to be is higher most of the time than what HR will offer you at the end. So after the pay discussion, the recruiter will then jump into about the position itself. They will talk about the job description, what your responsibilities are going to be, what the department's looking for, what your role will be. And let's say, for example, you applied for that office supervisor position. They will tell you, okay, so you're going to be, the department's looking for someone who has a positive attitude, someone who's very organized, someone who will be able to meet deadlines. So they'll just briefly talk about what the expectations are and what the responsibilities of the role for you will be. Of course, when you get to that in-person interview, they will tell you a lot more details. This is just kind of like an overview and getting to see if they want to call you in for that in-person interview. So after you've got the pay, the schedule, responsibilities, all of that out of the way, the recruiter will then start asking you those usual questions I told you guys about earlier in the video. So they'll start to ask a few of those. One of the questions they usually like to start with is, well, tell me about yourself. So when they say tell me about yourself, it's really, really important that you keep it about yourself, of course, but about your professional life. You don't want to go into your personal life. You don't want to tell them that you were born in New York and then you moved to Texas and then you relocated to California. You don't want to talk about any of that stuff. Usually my approach and the way I answer this question is, when they say tell me about yourself, I say, okay, so I graduated from Cal State LA 2 years ago. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in management. I've worked in a doctor's office for the past 5 years as an administrative assistant. Last year during the summer, I did an administrative internship at UCLA, and during the internship, I was told that I need to work on the main OR schedules and see how we could utilize the free slots that we have and which departments we could offer that to, so that we don't have ORs that are just empty. And working on this project, we were able to save the main OR thousands of dollars with looking at the schedule and filling in the gaps that they currently had. So that's what you want to talk about. You want to talk about your professional work experience, your education, any internships you've done, anything that you could relate to the job description. So next they will ask for your experience. And even if you worked in Home Depot and you're applying for this office supervisor position, you could tie in your experience from Home Depot, whether it was customer service, working on projects and finance, to the office supervisor position. So you really have to, that's why it's very important to do that background research and preparation. So you are, when you're asked these questions, you're able to tie in what your experience is to the current job that you are applying for. Another usual question they ask you is, why do you want this position? And it's so important to not badmouth your current position. You don't want to say, well, you know, honestly, I just can't get along with the manager. There's just a lot of different personalities. People, you don't want to say negative things. You want to always make it look like you're looking for opportunities to grow as a professional, to be challenged so that you could grow as a professional. Every single job has its pros and cons. There is no perfect place to work. When you're working with other people, you have to know that you're working with different personalities, different characteristics, people from different backgrounds, and you just have to accept that. Like I said, the way I like to answer this question is to say that, you know, I've been at that job for a while. You know, now I'm looking for a different opportunity that's going to challenge me, that's going to help me grow as a professional. So this is why it's important to read that job description, because it tells you the duties, responsibilities, and the roles of the position. So you could say something like, you know, I'm looking to grow as a professional, and when I came across your job posting and I read the job description and the responsibilities I would have if I was selected, I was very interested and saw that this would be a great place to work and for me to learn from and grow as a professional. This is usually how I answer those questions. After they ask you some of those questions, while they're asking you those questions, keep in mind they are taking notes, they are typing your answers, because what they do is they send that over to the person who's looking to hire for this position, and that's when they read your answers and decide, do they want to call you in for that in-person interview, or do they want to move on to the next candidate. So don't think the recruiter is just sitting there and listening to you. They're actually taking notes, and they're going to send this to the person who wants to hire for this position. That's pretty much the process of a telephone interview. It doesn't really take that long. I think the shortest telephone interview I've had is 10 minutes, and the longest telephone interview I've had is somewhere around 20 minutes. They're not really long. That's pretty much in the nutshell the process of it. So now I'm going to end the video with just a few tips that I think will really help you with your telephone interview in the future. The first is to make sure you have that quiet space. It just shows how serious you are about the job, and it just leaves them with a good impression. The second tip I have is to wear a suit. Put on the suit, feel the confidence, get in the mode of the telephone interview, and crush that telephone interview. And my third and final tip is to have that notebook and pen with you. You just never know. They might say something during the telephone interview. You want to jot it down. You want to jot down the responsibilities and the roles, because you're probably going to forget afterwards, after the conversation, because you're so focused. And this way you could go back and you could read your notes that you took in the telephone interview and see if this is something you really wanted, or if it matches the description, or if you do have any more questions. If you get called in for that in-person interview, you could ask them directly. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you really liked it and found some of these tips useful. I use it all the time during telephone interviews when I'm getting ready for them. If you really like this video, please hit like and subscribe down below to let me know that you want to see some more videos like this. And I just want to wish you all the best luck during your next telephone interview. I hope you crush it. Take care.